mobile and settled communities. The tribals. In the ancient history, you studied that Indian society was divided into different varnas. With the arrival of the Muslims, a new society also occupied the land. Apart from these social groups, there also existed nomads, tribes, itinerant groups who had nothing to do with the social hierarchies. They believed in social equality, and a member of the community was considered one among equals. These societies, which thrived in various parts of the subcontinent, did not follow the social rules and rituals prescribed by the Brahmins, and they were not divided into numerous unequal classes. For such societies, a generic term tribe was used. They usually lived in a forest, hills, deserts, and in a place where it was difficult for others to reach. In various ways, the tribes tried to retain their freedom and preserve their separate culture. In this process, sometimes they even clashed with caste-based societies. Our knowledge is vague about the origin and the subsequent history of the numerous tribes of India in the absence of sufficient archaeological data. The historical data to shed some light on their life, and we start picking up threads of their existence. The tribes used to preserve rich customs and oral traditions. These were passed down from one generation to the next. Of late, historians have started using such oral traditions to write tribal histories. Tribes in mainstream. The rapid development took place in agriculture during the early medieval period. People began to encroach forest land to expand their agricultural land. This resulted in the assimilation of many of the tribal communities in the social fold and led to the peasantization of these tribes living in the forest area. These became part of the settled communities. This whole process not only influenced the tribes, but the tribal culture and custom also got assimilated and absorbed in the mainstream social setup. The origin of worship of Lord Jagannath could be traced to the early medieval tribal culture. Rath Yatra festival is celebrated every year in Puri to worship Lord Jagannath. Who were nomads? Nomads are wandering pastoralists who roam from one pasture to another with their families and herds of cattle. Similarly, itinerant groups such as artisans, craftsmen, traditional storytellers, and entertainers travel from place to place practicing their different occupation. Both nomads and itinerant group often visit the same places every year. These are known as mobile communities. Even today you can see many of these wandering groups from Rajasthan visit cities like Delhi and other surrounding territories in search of greener pastures during the dry winter season. With the development in economy, many new professions came into being which required skilled people. Smaller castes called jatis emerged within the society. For example, new caste appeared amongst the Brahmins. On the other hand, many tribes and itinerant groups were taken into caste-based society and given the status of jatis. Specialized artisans, smiths, carpenters and masons were also recognized as separate jatis. Similarly, many traditional singers and storytellers like Bhant were recognized as castes. Tribal livelihood. Important occupations of the tribes were agriculture, hunting and herding of cattle. Most often they combined these activities to make full use of the natural resources of the area in which they lived. Some tribal were nomadic and moved from one place to another. Similarly, the nomadic pastoralists moved over long distances with their animals from one place to another. They exchanged wool, ghee, milk, etc. with settled agriculturalists for grain, cloth, utensils and other products. They bought and sold these goods as they moved from one place to another, transporting them on their animals. The Banjaras were an important nomadic trader group during the medieval period. Their caravan was called Thanda. Sultan Alauddin Khalji's market regulation system could stop successfully primarily because of the fact that he relied heavily on the Banjaras to transport grains to the city markets. The Mughal Emperor Jahangir also wrote in his memoirs that the Banjaras carried grain on their bullocks from different areas and sold it in towns. They transported fruit grains for the Mughal army during military campaigns. What we witnessed during this entire period is a great deal of social change and interaction between different segments of the society. On the one hand, the caste system among the Hindus intensified, and on the other hand, there existed the tribal societies which denied the orthodox Brahminical order. But a process of interaction and adaptation between the two societies continued. As a result, a few of the tribal societies were incorporated within the folds of Hindu caste system. Some others chose to stick to their tribal ways.
And quite a few of the tribes succeeded in establishing their own well-organized political systems over a large area.